Come, let us explore whether yoga is a substitute for meditation. Sadly, we have to play with semantics. Yoga is an umbrella term for many disciplines, including, of course, the 8 limbs of yoga. So, specifically, let's talk about Vinyasa yoga, Asana yoga, and Pranayama yoga. Now, asana is just holding a pose. And typically, it has much more to do with concentration than it does meditation. Allow me to illustrate. When we concentrate and analyze, we exhaust our prefrontal cortex, which triggers our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. The antidote for this kerfuffle is this. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we automatically access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the thoracic within the middle third of our spinal cord, which has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which is the opposite of the rigidity inherent in concentration. Furthermore, every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, our parasympathetic nervous system, divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord, has evolved to support both physical relaxation and mental release of what we noticed during our previous inhalation. So we can both agree that the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system are not the same as our prefrontal cortex or our amygdala. Anything that relies on concentration or analysis is entirely different than passive awareness and visceral release. Completely different. And you might argue that concluding one's yoga practice on one's back in the corpse pose is release, but it's corrupted by body sweep, which is a form of concentration. And to put a finer point on it, we can be controlling or we can be laid back. We can be rigid or we can be flexible. We can move from an agenda or be completely spontaneous. This yang-yin division is not unique to Taoism. It's found around the world and given a plethora of names. Now, let's explore the name game. I think you would agree that if you and I were going for a walk in my neighborhood and we happened upon a steaming pile of doggy doo, and I pulled out of my pocket a 3x5 card and wrote chocolate on it, and then gingerly placed the 3x5 card upon the steaming pile of doggy doo, I think we would agree that would not change the appearance or the scent, and heaven forfend the taste of doggy doo. Similarly, when we label concentration as mindfulness, it's still concentration. When we label body scanning or any other form of analysis as relaxing, it's still analysis. it's kind of like what good old Abraham Lincoln has said. You can fool some of the people some of the time. You cannot fool all the people all of the time. You can fool the gullible and the ill-informed, but you can't fool their central nervous system. And their body will trigger the amygdala and increase their anxiety and aggression. Now, for a certain demographic, people are going to think, oh gosh, I'm feeling worse than when I came in. I must need even more yoga. So it will serve your business model, but it will not pave the path of nirvana. So, in conclusion, yoga vinyasa, yoga asana, yoga pranayama are not substitutes to meditation. They are optional adjuncts. Some people might find them beneficial to a certain degree. That's great. But they are not a substitute for meditation. This concludes our opening lesson. And now I'd like to take things to the main event, which is group meditation. It is Ahsoka Tano Thursday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I could become the neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi. I forgot the possessive. I should have said your neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. And now let us turn to this morning's practice text, the latest iteration of easy mantra meditation. As always, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist philosophy, or Buddhist meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. The contemporary practice of Mahamudra consists of Bindu Mahamudra, Tantra Mahamudra, and Sutra Mahamudra, known in English as energy work, simile chanting, as well as mindfulness and meditation. Let's start with energy work. Did I forget? Okay, good. Okay. Let us rest our index finger upon the tip of its thumb, and then rest our hand upon its left thigh. Oopsie, wrong button. Doing so, see, did I get this straight? Okay, good. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energy to effortlessly coalesce at the crown region of our head. Together, let us perform 4 or 5 recitations designed to exercise the neural pathways responsible for empathy. We start with the idealistic flavor. Together. In our compassion may we long to free all beings, choices, utterances, and deeds from the tyranny of the survival impulses of hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the 3 mental poisons. And now we're going to wax a little bit more practical. In our pragmatism, may all liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance upon the Buddhas. Example, instructions, and students described by the metaphor of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels. We're now going to recite an 8-syllable synopsis of the past 4 pages. While doing this, if you wish, you may join me in performing geriatric squat thrusts that you too might enjoy a splash of dopamine.
We free all through the three jewels. We free all through the three jewels.
That was invigorating, wasn't it? Whew. Now let us chant Tantra Mahamudra's wise similes to better master the impermanence and interdependence comprising the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. So, quick reminder, our job is not to visualize or believe. We're just playing with similes. Together, all circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. All bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communication or speech. All interpersonal communication or speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. And in this next chant, we're going to demystify the Buddhist concept of emptiness, exploring it not literally but figuratively. All minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into our vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be non-graspable to the hand. Welcome to the first of 5 sets of this early morning's mindful crease counting meditations. This is an excellent opportunity to review the 3 points of Bengali crease counting. The first point is what we do exclusively with our right hand. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance the right thumb in the following manner, beginning with the little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. When we multiply this by 4 sets, we wind up with 48 inhalations. We could keep track of these 4 sets by using the left hand, which is the second phase of Bengali crease counting. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 12 inhalations each. We now come to the third phase of Bengali crease counting, where we use both hands. Let's rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger, upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our laps. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the bladder region of our lower abdomen. So what if let's demystify enlightenment. What if enlightenment was not for special people at a special time in a special place? What if enlightenment was nothing more than simply mastering the Buddha's Eightfold Path? But what do we mean by mastery? No human child is born automatically knowing straight from the womb how to use the toilet or tie their shoes or brush their teeth or ride a bike, and yet, due to neuroplasticity and a lot of effort, most children are able to do those things by the time they enter first grade. In fact, they are so comfortable with those things that they can practice them spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. The Buddha inferred likewise that we too could master this Eightfold Path in as little as 7 days. The reason for that is because simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation, perhaps every 12 hours or so, the remaining 6 folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path take care of themselves. In preparation for mantra meditation, together let us chant an explanation of the Benzaguru mantra. I invoke teachers on action on meditation whom view that the Benza Tantra Guru teaches Pema enlightenment and siddhi abilities who may be mastered by all. Super easy. During the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the... Oopsie, this is an error. Let me fix this real quick. Better. Okay. During the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the condensed instructions for mindfulness and meditation. During the exhalation, we do 2 things simultaneously. We physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 12-syllable mantra 5 times per breath for a total of 4 breaths. Now listen, guys. If this is your first time hanging out with me or hoonging out with me, then please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om Ahum Benzo Guru Me Masiri Hung. 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 We switch gears now from mantra meditation to silence meditation, which is known by many names, including Sutra Mahamudra. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics, including perception, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including all the emotions, all the intentions, all the cognitions, all the recollections, all the imaginations humans are capable of, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. During each by the way, this is known as mindfulness. During each exhalation, let's try this again. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever we noticed during the previous inhalation, to the point that our meditation causes what we noticed to fleetingly feel less tantalizing, less defining, and less permanent, thus effortlessly training us in the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the deep familiarization with the literal impermanence that supports letting go. Together, let us practice right now. Good morning, and welcome to the second of 5 sets of mindful crease counting meditations. Whoops, got a little ahead of myself. Let us rest, oopsie, wrong hand. Let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce and in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. If you're just tuning in, here's the secret to mantra meditation. During each inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the concise instructions for mindfulness and meditation. During each exhalation, we're going to perform 2 actions. We're going to simultaneously, we're going to physically relax as best we can, while striving to chant the 12-syllable mantra 5 times per breath for a total of 4 breaths. Om Ahum Minzu Guru Me Maziri Hung 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 Om Ahum Minzu Guru Me Maziri Hung. We now switch gears from mantra meditation to silent meditation, known by many names, including Ati Yoga. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to notice mind's antics. Each time we silently and mentally recite the 1-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release. Together, let us practice right now. Good morning and welcome to the third of 5 sets of mindful crease counting meditations. Let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Oops, wrong button. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the heart region of our chest. Let us warm up with a bit of the old mantra meditation. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the essential instructions for mindfulness and meditation. During each exhalation, we can perform 2 actions simultaneously. We can physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 12-syllable mantra 5 times per breath for a total of 4 breaths. Here's a quick tip. I found it easiest to count to 5 on one finger, thusly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, we multiply that by 4 breaths. 1 breath, 2 breath, 3 breath, 4 breath. There we go. Om Ahum Binzu Guru Me Maziri Hung 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 Om Ahum Binzu Guru Me Maziri Hung. Om Ahum Binzu Guru Me Maziri Hung 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 Om Ahum Binzu Guru Me Maziri Hung. Let's switch gears from mantra meditation to silent meditation. Each time, oops, you gotta find the right button. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics. Each time we silently and mentally recite the 1-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release what we noticed during our previous inhalation, causing us to fleetingly experience what we noticed as being as non-graspable as a vast empty void. What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the hand. And so, simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation, we wind up training in the first fold of the Buddha's eightfold path, deep familiarization with the figurative emptiness that supports our mental release. Together, let us meditate right now. Let us switch gears back to, well, welcome to the fourth of fifth sets, try this again. Welcome to the fourth of 5 sets of mindful crease counting meditations. We're going to do something a little more complicated. We're going to rest each of our 4 knuckles upon their corresponding, the tips of their corresponding little fingers, while holding our hands palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce in the region of our throat that tightens just before we cry. During our inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite the essential instructions of mindfulness and meditation. During our exhalation, we can perform 2 acts simultaneously. We can physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 12-syllable mantra 5 times per breath for a total of 4 breaths. So what we'll do is we will count 5 breaths thusly. 5 repetitions thusly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 4 fingers. 1, 2, or I should say, and we will count the 4 breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Om Ahum Bin Suguru Mema Siri Hung. 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 We switch gears now to silent meditation. This is a great opportunity to discuss duality and non-duality and going with the flow. First, let us review the basics. Each time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our inhalation, we are wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all manner of things. On one level, on a superficial level, we could notice mind's antics of perceptions, emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. On a deeper level, we might notice dualities. We might notice the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable or the painful, the interesting or the boring, the glorious or the grotesque. In essence, the most fundamental duality we could notice is that some things we desire and some things we dread. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Remember, we are shaped by our survival instincts. And, desiring healthy food and dreading poison is probably a wonderful thing in terms of survival of the species. What then is the problem? The problem is not the presence of survival instincts. The problem is that sometimes tools, they shift from the role of tool to the role of tyrant. And when we are consumed by our survival instincts, when we are defined by our survival instincts, we don't have the bandwidth for fulfillment, for cooperation, and the like. And so on an even deeper level, what else could we notice? We could notice a very subtle resistance to the actual or potential absence of what we like, as well as a subtle resistance to the actual or potential presence of what we dread. When I was a little boy, I lived in dread of the monster who I was convinced lived in the closet. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation. Releasing doesn't mean they go away per se. It just means we stop resisting, or at least we take a break from resisting, as if we were inferring that whatever comes, we're going to let it come, whatever stays, we're going to let it stay, whatever goes, we're going to let it go. I remember when I was a little boy and I saw Jaws in the movie theater, some guy crapped his pants. And I was sitting right behind that guy. And I was experiencing a whole lot of dread. I would have left, but I had no way of getting home. Now, you might say, well, what happens? See, sure, we could relax and release our resistance as we exhale, but what happens when we inhale? The whole thing starts over again. Then what's the point of it? The point of it is this. We are already wired to notice and release. But due to a quirk of evolution, we get stuck in our prefrontal cortex in resistance, which feeds the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, which makes us pretty miserable. By actively cooperating with these natural processes through the cunning use of monosyllabic words in harmony with the cycle of our breath, we get to interrupt the habit of our cerebral cortex competing against our sympathetic nervous system and competing against our parasympathetic nervous system. And in that interruption, in that gap, there's an opportunity for our brain to remember how to cooperate with its various components. And remember, enlightenment doesn't mean that we never experience pain ever again. It just means that we get really, really good at noticing and releasing. That's all. So that whatever slings and arrows of outrageous fortune we are pelted with, we're still able to notice and release in a way that helps us not to become a slave to our survival instincts, to hate and crave and cling and altogether be a bastard. But some people get very anxious and they say, dude, it sounds like you're asking me to be a doormat. So here's the great irony of it all. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we will notice our choices and utterances and deeds flowing from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, which should not be confused with the scattered spontaneity we sometimes experience after powering down 3 consecutive energy drinks. That's completely scattered. This is the centered spontaneity. This is the product or the byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. This is the key to expedient means. This is the key to the flow state. And it makes non-duality safe to practice. Together, let us practice right now. Welcome to the 5th of 5 sets of mindful crease counting meditations. Let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger, upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite the real or imagined subtle energies to automatically coalesce at the crown of our head. Let's practice a bit of the old mantra meditation. During the inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite the essential instructions of mindfulness and meditation. During our exhalation, we can practice two things simultaneously. We can physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 12-syllable mantra 5 times per breath for a total of 4 breaths. We can count our 5 repetitions thusly: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can count our four breaths on our fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Om Ahum Binzu Guru Mima Siddhi Hung. 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 All right. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. What could that look like? Well, it could look like Yang's religious patriarchy influencing most cultures and most citizens of most cultures to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And when that happens, people tend to, in the name of meditation, people tend to practice focus and analysis, which does nothing, which exhausts the prefrontal cortex and triggers the amygdala, which is the seat of anxiety and aggression. Fortunately, there is a threefold solution to this. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun, this during our inhalation, we are wired to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly mind's antics, even anxiety and aggression. Each time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb-ease during our exhalation, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation, including our anxiety and aggression. So the first thing that this mindfulness and meditation does is it takes the edge off of our anxiety and aggression, which is lovely. The second thing this mindfulness meditation does is it undermines the ability with which anxiety and aggression could control our choices and utterances and deeds. What is the third way that we benefit from mindfulness and meditation? The practice stimulates our anterior cingulate gyrus, this hunk of meat that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, the root of compassion and love. This is exactly why the late Tukul Tundip insisted that the highest love was the spontaneous and uncontrived byproduct of mindfulness and meditation, a sentiment echoed in the Opus Magus of Prahe Vajra of the Swat Valley, penned many, many centuries ago. How important is this empathy? 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to loving kindness. Kindness of intention, kindness of communication, kindness of conduct, and commerce, both cooperative as well as kind. All this comes from a practice of mindfulness and meditation. Together, let us... Now, this doesn't mean we're not going to feel the full spectrum of emotions. What it means is we're not going to be controlled by them. And regardless of how cranky we feel, we'll still have the impulse to do the kind thing. Together, let us practice right now. Let us seal this morning's practice by chanting Tantra Mahamudra's kind similes, that we might better master the loving kindness of the integral to the second through fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. So the Buddha was fond of organizing all that could be perceived in terms of four categories. In this context, those categories would be the mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. And the late former head of the Nyingma order of the Tibetan sect known as the Nyingma order insisted that Tantra is based upon sutra with which it must never contradict. And so we say all the Tantra is introducing figures of speech into the ancient practice of giving a flying fuck about others. Excuse me. Please chant with me. So, by the way, these are not prayers to real or imagined celestial entities, for such things only increase our rigidity. We are simply using words to guide our own intention. That's it. Now, you might ask, why use figures of speech? Because all complex life forms on this planet evolved to think symbolically. First we perceived, then we began recalling past perceptions and anticipating future perceptions, and lo and behold, we had the basic armature of intelligence. Let's chant. May each mind of each being known be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a tikli one suitable seed or bija mantra. May all relationships, communication, or speech of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha's speech, symbolized by a multisyllabic mantra. May all bodies or forms of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health represented by Buddha's statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Yidam, an archetype of enlightenment such as Kuntu Zangpo Yabhyam. Let us lovingly wish that all beings be liberated from the tyranny of others. Sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, classism, exploitation, fascism, jingoism, genocide, speciesism, and ecocide. May each circumstance or lot of each being now have the safety and good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land, or Vati depicted in Buddhist paintings. You have taken a first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 8 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.